Welcome to Going Unbluted, everybody, home of the college football fan. And don't forget about the checklist. Hat check, sunglasses check, Pepsi check, nose check, sources check, and thick skin is a check. Don't forget to send gear to represent your team and yourself in my background. Send it to P.O. Box 360, Liberty, South Carolina, 29657. Get yourself a shout out. On to the next video. If this is true, this is one of the strangest sequence of events I've ever seen for conference realignment. I'm hearing that, well, I've talked about that Tulane should be on the radar of the Pac-12. The Pac-12 should look at Tulane, especially since they're looking at SMU, because Tulane has AAU status, great academics. They just won the AAC, and they just beat USC, who is on their way out of the Pac-12 into the Big Ten. So I have suggested that the Pac-12 look at Tulane. Well, according to our favorite rumor mill guy, I call him MacGyver, he says, I can confirm Tulane reached out to the Big 12, not the Pac-12, to gauge interest and informed the Big 12 that the Pac-12 is interested. Big 12 is cool on Tulane. Wouldn't be a bad addition, but there are better ones ahead of them. I would agree with that. So what I'm getting from that statement is the Pac-12 does want Tulane. They are looking at Tulane. They want Tulane. I don't know how serious that is, but that's what I get from that. But Tulane would rather be in the Big 12 over the Pac-12. What is going on with the Pac-12? Listen, the Pac-12 already has to worry about the Arizona schools not being happy. We have heard that over and over and over. Arizona State not happy with the TV deal talks, and Arizona not happy with the TV deal talks. Brett McMurphy talked about the Pac-12 TV deal and how it will be heavily influenced by streaming. Listen, streaming might be mainstream in the future, but it's not mainstream right now. That's not good for the Pac-12 if they're leaning heavily on streaming. And that's Brent McMurphy saying that. So he's pretty keen on this situation. He was the first one that broke George Kliavkoff going to SMU and confirmed that. So he's been on top of this since day one. On top of that, Brent McMurphy thought it was strange that the Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff visited SMU and went to a basketball game there because conference commissioners usually don't do that. In fact, Brett McMurphy couldn't think of one instance where the conference commissioner went to the university that they're looking at. Maybe a sign of desperation. And on that video where Brett McMurphy was the guest, one of the responses of an SMU fan, oh man, SMU should just stay put in the AAC until the smoke clears with Washington, Oregon, and the two Arizona schools. Now listen, I understand. Fans don't make the decisions, but fans usually are able to gauge the actual mood of the fan base and perhaps the mood of the administration. Is SMU thinking about turning down the Pac-12? I've heard that SMU is willing to take whatever deal the Pac-12 offers. I don't think the Pac-12 should win after SMU. I don't think that's a good fit, but that's neither here nor there. If they want them, they want them. I think they should add San Diego State and Fresno State first. Then, if you want to add SMU, you take SMU and Rice or SMU and Tulane. But I'm not the Pac-12 commissioner, obviously. George Kliavkoff is. And George Kliavkoff keeps dropping the ball. The first biggest mistake, and it was a terrible mistake, is he didn't get a TV deal locked down. He was using the open door method. I'm going to take on all bidders. I think we can take on a massive TV bill comparable to the SEC and the Big Ten. No, George, no. The Pac-12 is not worth the kind of money that the Big Ten and the SEC are worth. So what happened was the Big 12, Brett Yormark, did lock down a TV deal with Fox. Fox stopped bidding on the Pac-12, and now the Pac-12 is getting lowballed by ESPN. In fact, from what I heard, ESPN did have a TV deal for the Pac-12, but they pulled it because of cuts at Disney. They could reoffer to the Pac-12, but it could be significantly lower. Fox is not bidding. They're focusing on streaming. This is not good. Especially if it's true that Tulane reached out to the Big 12, not the Pac-12, and told the Big 12, hey, the Pac-12 is interested in us, but we'll give you first dibs first. But we're just letting you know the Pac-12 is interested in us. They didn't reach out to the Pac-12. They reached out to the Big 12, and they were telling them what was happening. Man, if this is true, this is bad. I do think that the Pac-12 will survive for a few more years, but we could see a massive exodus. The biggest hurdles that the Pac-12 has to overcome, first of all, getting a good TV deal. I'm not sure that's going to happen. The second thing is the Big 12 and possibly the ACC and possibly the Big 10 wanting teams. That still isn't done and over with. The Big Ten could very well want Washington and Oregon in the future, Or maybe Washington and Oregon uses the Big 12 as a stepping stone and then onto the Big 10. Sort of a loophole, antitrust lawsuits. That would be a loophole. If they used Big 12 as a stepping stone and then moved on to the Big 10, that would be a loophole in that. So you'd have to worry about Oregon and Washington going to either the Big 10 or the Big 12. And on top of that, the Four Corners, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, still interested. That's what I'm hearing, still interested. This TV deal is not locked down yet. I'm hearing that we're supposed to hear an announcement sometime soon, but the day comes and the day passes, the day comes, the day passes, and it just doesn't happen. The Pac-12 is in a bad situation, especially if the teams that you're looking at that's not even a member of your conference yet are very hesitant. I don't know if we want to join that conference. That conference looks very, very shaky. SMU fans saying, "What? Whoa. Let's see what the Pac-12 looks like here in the next year or two. Let's see if Washington and Oregon bolt to the Big 10. Let's see what the Four Corner schools do before we make a decision. Maybe we could somehow sneak into the Big 12. Or maybe it's just better to stay in the AAC if the Pac-12 dissolves anyways." If that's their mindset, then the Pac-12 might be screwed. I mean, Tulane going to their competition and flat out telling them, hey, they're interested in us, but we're trying to gauge your interest because we'd rather be in the Big 12 or the Pac-12, which is really crazy because Tulane is a very, very high academic school. They have AAU status. Their academic score is very high. So for them to be interested in the Big 12 or the Pac-12, that tells you just how shaky the Pac-12 is, because the Pac-12 is supposed to be a conference of higher learning. A lot of their schools have AAU status. A lot of their schools have Tier 1 research facilities. They do like high academics. Cal and Stanford are one of the best in the entire nation. So for a higher academic school to put a higher academic conference second under the Big 12, that really, really makes me raise my eyebrow. Now, I don't know for sure that the Pac-12 is interested in Tulane, and I'm not for sure that Tulane is going behind the Pac-12's back and telling the Big 12, hey, they're interested in us. But it would make sense. I had Tulane on the list as far as teams that the Pac-12 needs to look into, so it would make sense that the Pac-12 would be looking into Tulane. But the thing that wouldn't make sense is Tulane going behind their back and telling the Big 12 what's going on. That is crazy. And SMU possibly not accepting an invite. They're scared of the Pac-12 dissolving. Then they're back to square one. Do they have to reapply to the AAC? Is the AAC going to be mad at them? Maybe some repercussions in the future. I don't know. But SMU fans are very, very hesitant. I'm not sure what the administration is thinking. George Kliavkoff did go over there. I'm sure they had a long talk. I'm sure he let them know, hey, the Pac-12 is interested. We haven't heard an announcement yet. We haven't heard an announcement on the TV deal, and we haven't heard an announcement on the Pac-12 inviting any members and any members being accepted. It is expected to be San Diego State and SMU in the first round. Maybe a Fresno State and a Rice, or a Fresno State and Tulane, which would be smart, or maybe a Rice and Tulane. I don't know. But as of right now, we have to clear step one, and that's the TV deal. Maybe that was a conversation between George Kliavkoff and SMU. Oh, okay, so what does your TV deal negotiation numbers look like? Well, to be honest with you, we had a deal, but ESPN pulled it. They're making cuts. So we're going to streaming. So I don't know the actual numbers, but trust me, it's anything better than what you're making in the AAC. George, what are the TV numbers for the negotiations? Well, here's the thing. We just don't have it locked down. We're going to focus on streaming, and trust me, we will be able to make some money in the streaming. That will be mainstream in the... George, what are the numbers? I don't know, guys. I just don't know. We don't have it locked down. That's how I see that conversation going, and that's why SMU fans are like, we need to hold off on this. So y'all in the comment section. Number one, do you think the Pac-12 will be losing members in the future because SMU is saying, wait, we need to wait till the smoke clears because it looks like something's going to happen? The second thing is, do you think there's a real potential that SMU and Tulane could end up turning down the Pac-12 in the future? Just how much in trouble is the Pac-12 right now? That's all I got for this. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.